October 24th. It's only 2 months until Christmas. Okay, now that I scared you, let's grab a coffee and talk about a realistic utopia of a fair society. The rule of law comes up quite often today in our political discourse. It's important, of course. It's also very abstract. So let's change this by revealing the role it plays in connection with the dataset that defines the society. Once more. And I repeat it as often as I do because it is fundamental to understand human cooperation, but so many are unaware of it. Reality is nothing we share by nature. That is because a human brain doesn't have the capacity to process all the data necessary to produce a true model of a physical universe. Far from it. But even if the brain had the capacity, which it has not, the brain is hidden from the physical universe in a cavity behind a thick skull. It relies on our senses as sources of data from the physical universe. Our senses are extremely limited in the scope of information they gather, as well as in the actual amount and precision. And they differ from person to person, as controversies like the one around the famous dress proof. So, the input of actual data about the physical universe into the generation process of our model of the world is tiny and already shows differences between people. The question is, how do we get from that to the detailed reality we are presented with by our minds? The answer is hypotheticals based on existing knowledge, information, and loads of creativity. To give you an example of how far creativity goes, we know that time is a creation of our mind, as are colors. Even three-dimensional space is most likely not something that exists in the actual physical universe, in which we are all simply patterns in a single wave function. The hypotheses our brain comes up with are not willy-nilly well. The material things that make up our body seek both their lowest energy state and to be in equilibrium with their surroundings. To achieve that, they need to explore their surroundings and interact with it, preferable the most promising bits of the surroundings. Our brain, mind, developed as a tool to hypothesize about the most promising energy patterns to interact with and how to make the interaction happen. The mix of material things in our bodies and how they are bonded differs from person to person. Hence, our hypotheses will differ from person to person. As a result of different data input and different hypotheses made to fill the gaps, the dataset making up the reality that we experience in our minds are completely different. Different enough that in the natural state, unless you are so closely related that the makeup of your material things is quite similar, and the prior knowledge that's so deeply ingrained in you that it feeds your unconsciousness is similar thanks to what we call cultural imprint, there's no common ground that would make it possible to shape common goals. The ability to shape common goals, however, is a prerequisite to any cooperation. Humans want to cooperate with each other, and that goes back to the twin goals of the material things we are made up of and the need that arises from these goals to explore our surroundings. Searches can be executed by exploiting existing knowledge. While this is enough for an individual human to survive without any need of cooperation, we all could do that and just survive, it's not real exploring. The payoff via interaction with the unknown in such searches that exploit existing knowledge is extremely low. When it comes to exploring, you need to conduct random searches, which promise a much higher payoff. In fact, they promise the highest payoff of all kinds of searches you could ever conduct. They are very risky, though. Too risky to engage in by a human being alone. Yet cooperation offsets the high risk. The better, the more humans cooperate. In order for humans to cooperate, they must align their self-generated models of the world to create some common ground between them. Alignment happens when all humans in the group replace some of the data that they would choose themselves to put into their models of the world with a dataset they all share. This dataset contains all the definitions, rules, and structures that govern their cooperation. The rule of law in this context is that all members of a group or society self-generate their models of the world according to the same dataset, because only that makes cooperation possible. Rule of law is everyone uses the same dataset. In a fair society, that's not a problem. Where the dataset is a compromise, all members of a group had the same say in, and which they agree to use willingly, because it satisfies at a minimum the one motivation all humans share to seek cooperation, an increased ability to execute random searches, along with any other motivations they might all share in this particular group or society. Everyone, not a single one, disagrees when it is a motivation they all share. It's not a majority decision in this case. But the more a society is based not on actual compromise, but on one part of a group believing they can cause and force others into using a dataset these people don't agree to, it becomes a problem, because whatever this dataset is, it will contain different versions of a dataset for different people. The common ground to shape common goals is lacking, and thus cooperation becomes impossible. What results are conflict, oppression, and violence, not cooperation. Some people will be used by others. So that's the fundamental importance of the rule of law. The rule of law is another prerequisite to cooperation. Because only when the rule of law is adhered to, all people will use the same dataset to generate a model of a world that contains common ground from which common goals can be shaped that lead the cooperation. Okay, any thoughts? Tell me, tell all, since our models of the world change with every new information we gather, and the models are only accessible to others when we communicate them, because they are only in our mind. We are part of never-ending negotiations that require constant conversation and debate if we actually want a fair society and to kick out violence and war from our living together. Okay, that's all I wanted to say today. I will be back, for now, I will be back tonight with a TikTok live while I prep dinner, so you're cordially invited to my kitchen to listen to me rambling on about just that while I'm prepping our dinner. And if that's not your cup of tea, I'll be back tomorrow with another video, and I hope a live stream on TikTok Live. Maybe not, because it's our weekly chopping day in the evening. As always, you can read all the transcripts of all my videos on my blog Hyperobject Mind. The link is in the bio. I hope to meet you again. It would be fun. Until then, bye.